girls of Reddit. What is the creepiest thing a man has said to you in public? I was 11 in a street market in Italy. A vendor came up and started trying to convince me to marry his son. My dad ran up and was like, dude, she's 11. The guy said, my son's only 26. It's perfect. I once had a minor car accident while on business trip in Belgium. This guy drove out from a parking lot and scratched my car. While I was in his home later to discuss insurance, he tried, jokingly, but still, give me his 11-year-old daughter to marry. I was almost 40 at the time. And the most fricked up thing was that the girl was translating since the guy didn't speak English and I don't speak French. I was once stalked by a man who worked in the store that was next to mine, and he had told me that he made his Skyrim character to look like me. I was in Paris at a Christmas market and a guy came up to me and told me I was very beautiful. Before I could say anything back, he said, you know, I've been following you for a while and saw your friends walk away from you. I could kidnap you so quick. They would never see you again. Then he laughs. And my friend, who was only like 8 feet away and heard this exchange, pulls my arm and we start fast walking away. We cut down so many alleys, popped in and out of shops, and got on different trains since it was nearly impossible to know if he was still following us. ETA, there were 3 of us, and while we really have no idea if he had actually been following us for a while, we assume he had been around long enough to know we spoke English, since he didn't approach me speaking French. I don't know why, but the harassment I've experienced in Paris has always been far worse than any other city. This was a guy who had found my Facebook in about half a second. I have no idea how. People I want to give it to can't find it without my help. So how does fricking work for you? Does it hurt you? How do you do it? He'd found out I was disabled and decided this was an excellent and appropriate conversation piece. I was wearing my horseback riding clothes. He held the door for me and said, you can ride me. When I kept walking into the store ignoring him, he screamed after me, hey B. I said you could ride me. This is why we can't have nice things, people. Why do people feel like they are entitled to other people's attention and time? Like it's rude of you to not respond to such a ridiculous comment. I was in Walmart and some creepy guy came up to me and my sister and pointed at his junk in sweatpants, clearly not wearing underwear, and asked if we wanted to touch it. Now I refuse to go to Walmart. That's when you hit them with the Karate Kid crane kick. Since this is getting attention, I want to mention the time my brother Karate Kid crane kicked me into a full-length mirror and resulted in me getting a glass shard 1 inch deep into my back that was like a 1/4 of an inch away from my artery. I worked at a truck stop and needed a driver to sign something, but didn't have a pen. He was a super gross old fat guy, missing quite a bit of teeth. He said that I could borrow his pen, but then I'd have to get in his truck with him. He was going to lock the doors and I wasn't allowed to get out. I recoiled in horror as he gave me the most disturbing smile. The thought of violating me and telling me about the fantasy truly made his day. He gave me the most disturbing smile. I know this smile. Was at a concert and had a guy slide his hand between my legs from behind and get a good feel before leaving with the flow of the crowd. I turned around with an absolute look of disgust on my face and am now forever haunted by his smile. Once I was threatened with physical violence because I didn't smile when a guy told me to and didn't go out of my way to be nice to him when he sat down next to me. I was also called jailbait by a few customers when I was 15 working at a local sub shop, which my manager and co-workers thought was hilarious. So many more anecdotes could come to mind if I sat longer and thought about it, but those stick out. I got followed through Walmart and the guy kept passing by me, and every time he would whisper, God, you're so beautiful, I love you. He followed me to check out and circled the parking lot to see what car I got in. I flashed my gun while loading my groceries and then he left. I went a different way home and was so paranoid of being followed, but I wasn't. I was also 20 weeks pregnant. Scariest moment of my life. I'm getting a vibe that Walmart is not the place to go alone as a teen young woman. We don't have them here. Probably closest thing is a Kmart. I was 14, out shopping at an Aeropostale when these 2 dudes approached me. They had to be in their mid to late 20s. They followed me around the store and kept asking me to try on the mini skirt I had picked out, asked me where I lived, my name, and just generally kept following and harassing me. I was super freaked out. hoping that my mom and brother would come back to the store soon to get me out of there. Screaming across a parking lot as I get into my car. You'd be lucky if I violated you, love me. I peeled out as fast as I could. Ugh, reminds me of when a man followed me to my car after work telling me about all the disgusting things he was going to do to me. Broke into a run to get to my car. Cried the whole way home. Oh no, when I was 13, a guy grabbed me by the wrist and he said, "Hey hottie, wanna come with me so I can show you something? I love bad girls like you." I was so stupid that I was still worried about being rude and apologized to him for saying no, but when he tried to fully grab my arm I just ran. These creeps know how to pick the most polite girls. I was in 6th grade and had 3 boys discuss my breasts in front of me like I wasn't there. The first boy said I stuffed my bra. The second one came up and explained to him how he could know that I didn't. The third joined in the explanation of real versus fake like they were looking at a painting on a wall while I sat there flabbergasted at being noticed in that way. I was 17 and cleaning a window at work. On one knee. Guy, in front of his 8-yo son, you like being on your knees? It happens a lot more the younger women are. Creepy guys know that the older we are the less likely we are to stand for that crap. So if you're young who gives a crap about being polite, give them a curled lip, raised eyebrow and a well-placed U and watch their faces fall. Not so much what was said at first, but the insistence, and continuing to walk with me on my route for like 20 minutes. That I must save his email address. Words alone are creepy on occasion, but it's the absolute worst when there's an element of being trapped. Yup, it's the implication. A homeless guy once told me he wanted to throw me in a bathtub full of jello and make love to me. I laughed really hard when this happened. Who knew I'd get so much mileage out of it 20 years later? Had an older man ask me to stir his mixed drink with my finger to make it sweeter. This was at a fancy-ish dinner party my family attended. I was 13. This guy was around 50. He went on to make a joke about me eating a sucker later on. Something about blowing pop. Still makes me nauseous after 20 years. I recently had a similar situation happen to me at work. Told me to stick my finger in his iced tea to make it sweeter when I offered him sugar. Told him I don't think you want your iced tea to taste like a bitter millennial, so put sugar down and walked away. He stopped being creepy the rest of his meal. You're gonna get spanking in a sing-song tone. I was working at a mom and pop burger joint and made a silly mistake. I was 19 at the time. The dude in question was 60/70. When I got embarrassed he acted proud of himself and stated, "Look how red she's turning." I too have experienced that pride. A regular customer at the tool shop I worked at asked me to hold out my hand. I present my hand, palm up. Quite confused. He flips it over and holds my hand. I forget what he said, but there was some gross pickup line. Anyway, he laughs to my co-worker who was standing beside me about how red I turned. Couldn't pull my hand away fast enough. Buff. I had rainbow colored hair as a teenager. One time at work a 60-plus-year-old customer said to me, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" Never mind. You probably don't have any down there. I've never been so uncomfortable. I'll never understand why anyone would think it's okay to ask something like that, but I guess that can be said for this entire thread. Buff. I was walking down the street toward a bar to meet some friends one night. A man drove by me once, then turned his car around and drove ahead of me and parked up the street. He walked toward me on the sidewalk, then when he reached me, turned completely around to walk beside me. At first he tried to be friendly and suggestive. When I wouldn't respond, and tried to walk faster to get to the bar, he told me he was going to put me in his car and take me to a special place. I started to run around a corner. He ducked behind the building there and cut me off ahead. I ran full speed across a busy street to the nearest CVS, which was open 24 hours, and called my boyfriend who sped over to pick me up. When we walked outside, the man was waiting by the exit with his front and rear car doors open, like he was waiting to force me into his back seat. About calling the police, yes, I totally agree that I should have done that, but I can't really describe how little rational thought went into my reaction. I also think that unfortunately a lot of women fall victim to the pressure to not make a scene. That societal voice in your head that tells you maybe you're just being paranoid or overreacting. That tells you not to be that girl. That is powerful and dangerous. I knew full well this man was trying to harm me and I still didn't want to sound crazy or not be believed. For any women reading this, next time you feel threatened, do not be me. Look crazy, make a scene, scream in public and call the cops. What my husband, then boyfriend, did when I called, I wasn't especially coherent about what had happened, just that I was being followed and needed help. He came from the bar where he was drinking and got me out, and I'm quite glad he didn't know the details at the time and he didn't try to fight the guy. My husband is a large, strong man trained in boxing. He is also Latino. Leaving aside the fact that the guy could have had a gun or a knife, the police have guns and are not known to respond well to large, possibly intoxicated Latino men starting fights in parking lots. While I was cutting a man's hair at beauty school, he told me to keep talking because it excites him a lot and proceeded to show me his mini-me. At that point I'd just give him a really fricked up haircut. I'm a guy, but the old dude who hit on me thought I was a girl from behind. He walked up to me, started rubbing my back, and asked if it'd be his friend tonight. When I turned around I thought we were both gonna have a heart attack. Was walking with my friend and a random dude said to her, "Hey cutie, I like the way you walk." When we ignored him he said, "I see how it is. We're high school kids, barely 5 feet tall." He followed us for 2 blocks before we made it to a crowded crosswalk. In an argument about why we need train guards, in a room of just men. Okay, but what's stopping you from being debauched in this room right now? Silence. WTF, please tell me you or someone else called him out on that fucked up SHT. If you keep losing weight, men are going to be jumping over the counter to get to you. And the counter was at a library. LOL. I went on a date with a guy who told me, if you just lost a little weight, you could be a model, and asked me what I ate in a day and if I'd go to the gym with him. At the local bar, there's a little old man, like 70, who goes and gets a bouquet of roses and gives them out to all the young girls. It seems really sweet. Unless you happen to hear what he's saying. One time he told me that he wonders what my pee smells like. I don't go to that bar anymore. You don't get a view like that every day. I was 10 and bending down to get something off a lower shelf at the grocery store. I was wearing a new lower cut shirt but forgot to wear my training bra that day. The guy was mid-40s probably. His wife was with him. She looked like she was about to cry. I never wore that shirt again. For those saying it's not possible for my chest to develop that quickly, my parents shouldn't have let me out in that shirt. The shirt was from Limited Too. My breasts weren't actually that developed. Hence training bra. This guy was just a pervert. I did tell my dad after we left the store. He told me what the guy did was sick and wrong. And that next time something like that happened, tell him immediately. I was working, doing the whole "how are you" bit to a customer. He said, if I was any better I'd be twins. Normal so far, and they'd be female, and hot like you. Sir, do you mean to tell me you'd want to bang your twin sister? At my sister's wedding, the photographer approached me at the head table. He leaned in and said, "How old are you?" 14. I replied, "Dang, I was hoping you were at least 17. He then winked at me and walked away. He was at least 40. The people sitting to my right and left both agreed that it was creepy as heck. The fact that he said that in front of others made it super weird. And the fact that he was still hoping I was underage, just not as underage that I was, is super disgusting. Maybe, just maybe, he was asking for a friend. Ugh. I was chillin' with this dude at a party-ish thing while deployed once. I'd mentioned a few times that I had a girlfriend back home, and he seemed cool and we had a lot in common. So we were fast buddies, until about 4 AM or so, when we're all sitting by a fire, and he asked if he could hug me, drunkenly. I was like, okay, whatever. But then he asked if he could kiss me, and I was like, nah dude, I have a girlfriend, I'm gay as heck. You know that, haha. And his face went real cold and he said, until I catch you walking back to your dorm alone later. I honestly could have cried, I was so scared. Thank frick a group of dudes I recognized walked past a few minutes later to go get early morning French toast at the chow hall. So I tagged along fast as I could. Never saw that dude again. Man 40 years older than me who was always kinda normal once mumbled and made a weird noise and then said to me the flesh is weak. So creepy. The creepiest. I was wearing a Marshall Lee the Vampire King shirt. One old dude told me that he liked my shirt. I said thanks. He then says he likes it because it makes him think about me biting him. I was shocked. I said nothing. Luckily my friend clapped back and was like, frick off bro. Your wife doesn't even wanna bite you, lol. Glad I had someone there with me. Love it. We need more clapping back like that back to these creeps. Really shame them. A guy asked me what cup size they were. I've also been asked how much by random assortments of men driving while I was walking to work. In work clothes, which was a t-shirt and blue jeans because it was a retail store. I also got told by a very boisterous gentleman in a Land Rover baby that but his black man approved, and when I looked around thinking someone else had to be on the street I heard no baby. I'm talking about you. I actually laughed at that one though, so I don't know if it counts. Laughed at the last one. I guess if you don't feel endangered by what they say it takes a different tone. I was waiting for an Uber home from a theater in Boston after rehearsal one night. It was after 11 PM. This black car that matches the make and model on the app rolls up, stops by the curb and rolls down the window. Guy inside asks if I'm waiting for Uber. I say yes and ask his name to see if it matches. He says, I'm Uber. Get in. At this point I'm creeped out, alone on a street corner close to midnight. I refuse and he says, I'll give you $300 if you get in this car right now. We're going to a party. At that point I turned around and booked it back into the theater. Absolutely not getting kidnapped today, folks. Check your plates before you take your Ubers. I'm a 45-year guy and I always make sure I check the plates before getting in an Uber. That is scary AF. Had a 65 plus co-worker who was simply disgusting. Poor hygiene, raggedy but greasy beard. Told me he had a Viagra in his lunchbox and that he'd pay for a room after work so I could ride him all evening. I told him no thanks. Went immediately and told our supervisor, who literally laughed and said, well, you know he didn't mean it. You're not even hot. What a crappy supervisor. I was young, probably like 19. I went into a gas station to pay and the clerk said to me, look at you dressed like a little S. I was in a skirt and shirt. I was really shocked, and the only one at the store. When I didn't say anything back he said, you get off turning men on, don't you? I got so scared. I also lacked the confidence back then to shut it down. Thank God someone else walked in and the clerk gave me back my change and I went on my way. Oh, and once when I was a teen I was waiting for my mom at a store. I decided to swing my bare feet out the window and lay back and nap. All of a sudden I felt someone tickling my feet. It was an old man. So creepy. I've had many things said to me. Here are a couple of my favorites. 1. I was 15 at a little amusement park in San Diego that was on the beach and a middle-aged man came right up behind me, touched my hip and whispered in my ear, your body is so hot. I was so weirded out. 2. Used to be a leasing agent at this apartment complex and this USPS driver would make very strange comments to me. Started to become more vulgar. One day he said that I had great tea. Another day he asked me if I would consider doing P and that I would make a lot of money. Then another day he asked me what the craziest freaking thing I've ever done was. He would say this when no one else was in the office. I always told him to pee off. First date, having lunch at a burger place. He asked, loudly, if I was a virgin, then said I need to practice for my future husband when I said I was saving myself for marriage. Everyone was looking and I just wanted to die on the spot. Needless to say, there was no second date. WTFU. I was walking to school one morning, usual route, along a suburban intersection. An older woman, 30s, was ahead of me. This guy drives up alongside us and starts saying gross things, mostly to me, SCK me out, dig me open, and cursing at us. I'm pretty much just flabbergasted. The lady was disgusted, but anyways the dude drove off like it was nothing. I was like 10. Old man said he was a new adult film director in our small town and he asked me if it'd be in one of his films. I was 17 at the time. He then told me his entire name and full address, called my job every day to find out when I was there, and always asked about my condom recommendations. Either that guy or the time I was walking down the street in midday in full view of a busy outdoor bar and a guy pulled his huge SUV over and tried grabbing me to pull me into his car in front of everyone. I ran for my life and he actually chased me on foot for 3 blocks before giving up. No one helped me. Thank God I am fast. Yep, that's the bystander effect. I'm sorry that happened to you. At a bar one night I had a guy flirting with me and told me he was a Napoli vampire. And then went in to kiss my cheek. I kid you not, this dude bit my cheek. Not creepy, really, just freaking weird. Oh my, where to start? I should just violate you right now. You couldn't stop me. I better stop flirting with you or my wife will get mad. Who was present? Do you live alone? Also, questions just asking me if I'm alone. Also statements along the lines of, oh, you shouldn't be out alone. You're too pretty, someone will snatch you up. In a grocery store. Random old dude. I was 15. Asked if $500 would convince me to sleep with him. Stranger at a store also started a conversation with me. I was 16 and the cashier. Asking me about school. Then turned the subject to asking if I was a naughty schoolgirl and said he was sure I had many of the male teachers after me. A friend of mine noticed me freaking out and came over and told the guy to leave me alone. How did I forget? My fav, I'd love to cover your feet in honey and watch a bear cub lick it all off. I should just violate you right now. You couldn't stop me. Ugh. This reminds me of a time when I was in college. I was at a party, talking to this guy. Everything's normal. Seems like a cool guy. And I'm kinda digging him. Then he comes out with, God, I'd love to just violate you right now. I noped the heck out and avoided him like the plague whenever I ran into him again. There's been a lot over the years, but a recent one that stuck to memory because of how random it was. Old man, probably 70 plus, leaning in close on the train and whispering to me, is cats your fetish, with a creepy smile. I wasn't wearing anything cat related. I have no idea where the heck that came from. For background, I'm a dwarf. I was 18 years old at the time and out in town clubbing. A group of middle-aged men yelled out, you wouldn't even need to get on your knees. It was disgusting, but even more so because they were all old enough to be my father and all wearing wedding rings. They thought it was hilarious and followed me down the road while laughing for a few minutes. I stopped going out clubbing after that. That's really crappy. That's a shame, it ruined clubbing for you. If I was in my 20s, you'd be in trouble, said a creepy elderly man to me at a gas station after asking my age. I was very uncomfortable. ETA, I just want to say I'm so sorry for all of you who commented experiencing something similar or worse from a family member and at a young age. It's disgusting the things some grown men say do to children and women. I'm glad all of you have the courage to open up about these experiences. A 70+ man said that to me when I was 9. If I were younger I'd have a bit OU. I remember it vividly. He was never allowed around my grandparents' house again. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.